Well, with me is David Talbot from the Manx Credit Union, and we are just thinking about this before we started. 5 years, that's what we're talking about. I can't believe that's amazing.
Well, I was sat here in this chair some 5 years ago when we were about to launch, and it's amazing how quickly the time has gone by. Of course, 3.5 years prior to that, we were in the making of trying to get everything ready, getting political movement on it, and raising the cash, and making sure there's interest, because we didn't want to be scratching where it wasn't itching.
Now, International Credit Union Day, I think, in the world, isn't it? So it's that day for recording this interview. Can you give us some perspectives, first of all, how it's gone? You know, what difference have you made to people's lives? But then we'll deal with with the situation we're in now.
Oh, it's quite a big question, that. But I mean, we've got over 900 members now. We've got about 900,000 in savings. We've lent out about 1.1 million over the last 5 years to about 800 applications. So it has grown quite considerably in the time, and in particular in this last 12 months when we had an arrangement with the Treasury and with Social Security whereby people can borrow up to £500 and it can be paid by deduction from benefits directly. So we get a list every Friday with a long list of people who are sending in the 1250s through Social Security, and the person gets the balance of their benefits directly to them in the usual way. So that's proved to be very popular. And as it's coming round now to 12 months since we started that, people are coming back in now wanting to top up, getting ready for Christmas. And still lots of inquiries about household goods, carpets, chairs, sofas, then electronic goods, televisions, and so on and so forth. And then as well as that, there are people who have got trouble with their utility bills and that sort of thing. And I think that will be an issue as we're going forward now over the next 12 months.
Well, that's what it's coming to next, because with everything going up, people are going to feel the pinch even more, aren't they? Yeah,
but we never actually usually, we're not hungry for business in the sense we always look at an application and say what is the best for this individual, because at the end of the day we are a not-for-profit organisation. We're owned by the members, run by the members, for the members, so there's no point in actual fact offering something which might be profitable to the credit union but not actually in the best interest of the individual. So it's always good if you've got a problem with a utility bill to go back to the service itself, because each one of them has departments that deal with people who've got into arrears. As long as you're paying your current bill and you can pay a little bit off the old bill, there's no point paying interest to a provider if in actual fact there's an arrangement you can have. Where it's got really difficult is where people are being pursued potentially through the court, and people do get worried and anxious. But long term, what we are, Paul, at the end of the day, is a savings organisation. Because I know people think, oh, Manx Credit Union, that's what we're all about. But in reality, that is not what we're all about. I did say I have a considerable amount of money now in savings, and we do regularly encourage people to think about saving. And there are lots of ways that you can do that. I've actually introduced recently for people who are interested in this, we've got 3 what we call budget savers. So for holidays, Christmas, for children, anticipating expenses for the future, and people can save into those individual ones, and it kind of builds up, and people get quite excited when they see how much they've saved. On the loan product, for example, I mentioned before, we can borrow up to £500. Mandatorily, you pay £1 of the £12.50 that you pay goes into a savings account. So at the end of 12 months, you paid your £500 and you got £50 saved up. So, and people feel really good about that, the fact that they've begun to save. Perhaps people have never saved before, and this is a real first-time experience for them. And so if we can encourage people to build up a nest egg for the future and kind of be ready for emergency expenditure rather than rushing out for the first interest-free goods that they see, we'll feel we've achieved our objective. Notwithstanding the fact we all need to borrow money from time to time. So you've got to have something that is fair and reasonable and benefits the individual and the credit union itself.
You explain it so well, because you're right, the credit word is almost the wrong word, isn't it? And this is a savings, where possible. People putting away that little bit for that time of the year when they need it. And is that something that's hard to kind of get that message across to some people? Because they come in and just want to borrow money and that's it all.
Well, often we do. I mean, you can actually apply for a loan simultaneously with becoming a member. There's no kind of period of savings. But what we try and do is all our loan products examine first of all what a person has saved, and the more you've saved, then in fact the better the loan product you'll be able to apply for. So once you've got up to a certain, well, let's say you saved £1,000, you came in, you wanted to borrow a couple of thousand, then you'd be able to effectively borrow double what you'd saved at half the basic rate you would normally pay on interest. So that's one way of actually encouraging people to save first. But nonetheless, as I say, a large proportion of people, certainly in recent times, sign up and then simultaneously want to apply for a loan, which is fine. But long term, we like to see that savings build up, and it's in their interest to do that, because they get to a stage where if you've actually got quite a substantial sum and you want actually to borrow something, we would actually say to them, well, look, rather than drawing out your savings, there is an alternative to that. And the alternative will be that you actually borrow against your savings at a ridiculously low rate of interest, but it actually keeps the money flowing in and out of the credit union, and it's to our benefit, because what we do with all our spare cash? Who's going to pay us a nice deposit? Not these days.
Now, we're always hearing the minute, because obviously interest rates are so low, the only way is up. Is that a worry in the middle term to long term, if things get a bit more expensive to borrow that cash?
Well, if it became like a bank, for example, where they borrow money to lend money, but we don't do that. Right. Effectively, we only lend to our members what we've actually saved. So as our members are saving,
so you can keep your rates really low.
Sense. We're not influenced by the rate of interest in the marketplace. So from that perspective, it's very beneficial to be a member of a credit union, because this used to say in the last crash, 2008, that credit union is what they call very sticky. In other words, people don't rush in to take the money out because
they know they've got the cash in there.
It's safe.
Yes.
And whilst we're not part of the, without getting too political, we're not part of the Armand Depositors Compensation Scheme. We're prohibited from doing that, but we actually in fact got a very nice trust to actually underwrite what we do. So from that perspective, money is safe, and as you're suggesting, we're not in actual fact a victim of increasing interest rates.
How much difference have you made to people in the Isle of Man over the 5 years?
Well, I wish I could bring a dozen people in here and let them answer that question, really. People, for example, somebody phoned up today or sent me an email and said, look, Dave, I've got an emergency bill to pay. They've already got a loan running with us. It was just under £200, and I need it quickly. What can you do for me? Well, within 10 minutes, I sent them an agreement, they signed it, sent it back, and I sent the money to their account. So we can do things fairly quickly where we have to do. And so that does genuinely make a difference to people's lives. But on the other hand, there are people who come in desperate because they actually want to borrow something that perhaps a single parent family with 3 children, washing machine breaks down. What do you do? Or the cooker's gone, or the freezer, or whatever. Or as you actually rent accommodation from a local commissioners, all you get is 4 bare walls. And therefore, you need to find a deposit and the first payment for the rent, and then you got confronted with an empty house. What do you do in those circumstances? So we're trying our best to work with local commissioners and the corporation to see whether in actual fact people can become more aware of what we do, because we really would like to help people in that kind of situation. And people do come forward on that basis, and we can talk with them, and hopefully over time we're actually increasing a person's financial well-being, their understanding of how money works. And as I say, mixing savings and borrowings is a great way of actually building a much bigger foundation to your life.
Does this work better if you get more members? Is that what you'd like people to join you? Obviously,
yeah.
Some people only save. Do they actually put money to help other people?
Yes, that has been a great motivator to begin with. However, because now we're paying a reasonable dividend, what we don't want to do is to attract the professional investor who wants to put a lump sum on the table. In actual fact, you can only save £250 a month. That's the maximum we will allow, because we're not interested in people who've got an arrangement whereby they've got lots and lots of different kinds of investments. They're better off where they are. However, even though lots of those people are saving on a regular basis, or did have an issue of deferred shares recently whereby lump sums could be accepted, and were a great way of actually building up the foundation of the credit union. Well,
I wish you well. Any plans to change anything, or
yes,
for the future?
I think one of the next things that we should be doing is issuing an app whereby members can, in actual fact, use that app to check on their balances. So that'll be a new innovation for us. There's not many credit unions actually have that facility, but we're very generously being donated a sum from the Manx Lottery Trust, so we're able to put this in place, and people will be able to apply for that. Also, we recently made available to our members a Visa debit card. Now, a Visa debit card is not one that we own or issue in that sense. It's through Qantas PLC, a big financial service provider in the UK. They have a subsidiary they set up called Engage, which is set up as their CSR, their corporate social responsibility, to actually encourage people to use credit unions. Now, if you get hold of a card, which you just apply simply through us, it's a contactless card. You can set up banker's orders on it. You can use it in pretty well all the different ways you use your ordinary banker's card. Now, I've got one. I've had it for 6 months now. And it's great to be able to just go into, whether it's, I don't know, the coffee shops I go in, but any coffee shop where we always kind of get the card out automatically, or in a pub or wherever. Well, I found that great, because when we actually see bank statements now, because that's part and parcel of the loan process, they're like little Bibles. They're full of information, which, and you have to troll through all of this, and they come with a great stack of statements, whereas using my Engage card, I can keep all of that stuff on one side. So when I get a bank statement at the end of the month, go online or whatever, then there's only a few transactions on there, with transactions to my Engage card, just one a month.
Fantastic. Well, this is so interesting. People will be wanting to know more details. Is it a website or email? What's the best way?
Yes, www.mcu.im will give you all the products I'm talking about now, and give you a bit of a history about the credit union movement, and also actually tell you how it actually operates and how you can become part of it, because at the end of the day, our members are potential volunteers, because all the people who actually are in the office, about 18 people on a rota basis, they're all volunteers. Nobody in the credit union gets paid anything. We're all there to actually, because we believe in the project and what we're doing. So. And
is there a lot of hoops to jump through, because paperwork and all that sort of thing, or is it done? Well, there's
about four sheets of paper to fill in, but we sort of help people through that. Yeah. So it doesn't matter where people are. If they want to volunteer and help, then we will train them. We'll train them how to use laptops. We'll train them into how to actually, basically it's counter-facing. So if you like people, you'll probably like doing this kind of work at the end of the day. And it's nice to be able to think, well, at the end of 6 months, I can actually put on my CV, I worked in a financial office, you know what I mean? So it can be quite useful for people who want to offer their services. And it's quite surprising, Paul, as we've gone along, when we hit a certain new development, oh, crumbs, how are we going to do this? And actually, in fact, someone turns up who can do it, you know what I mean? So it's great to see people coming through who actually got the skills from other financial situations, and they can jump in and actually help us through a particular issue, a particular new product or whatever.